Welcome back to the Pulse. This afternoon, the governing NDC is relaunching its Setting the Record Straight platform as part of efforts to challenge what they say are false narratives and misinformation being pushed by the opposition MPP on key national issues. Let's take you live to the party's headquarters for more.
At the NDC, over 3,000 kilometers of roads were either constructed or rehabilitated, including the iconic Kwame Nkrumah interchange, popularly known as the Circle Dubai. More than 200 community-day senior high schools, which we call e-blocks, were initiated to expand access to secondary education. Major infrastructure like Terminal 3 of Kotoka International Airport and the Kumasi Airport expansions were delivered to international standards. Yet, these tangible gains were drowned in a flood of fabricated stories, from the infamous Dumso Amina Mohammed Yutong bus rape saga to the absurd and confirmed flights. These lies were repeated until they gained traction. Unfortunately, President Mahama, in all this, never buzzed pastors to the dam to pray. We worked towards solution. The present threats. Today, the same playbook is being deployed. Having failed to convince Ghanaians on policy and performance, the NPP has returned to propaganda, shifting from one false narrative to another. First, it was misinformations around Gold Board, its procurement, and others. Now, they have turned their attention to Cocoa Board, attempting to incite cocoa farmers, the backbone of our economy. They have even gone as far as alleging that public funds have been used to purchase 4 aircrafts for the president. A claim that is not only palpable false, but highly irresponsible. Also, the Bank of Ghana's 15 billion cedis commitment carried out under its core mandate to stabilize the economy should be viewed as a strategic investment rather than a loss. It has produced tangible results. A more stable microeconomic environment, lower debt to GDP, inflation reduced from 23 to 3.2%, eased cost of living pressures, and a stronger national currency. In contrast, claims of a 44 billion loss being circulated by the MPP and unsubstantiated and pure propaganda aimed at undermining the progress of the Bank of Ghana. This is not mere politics. This is coordinated attempt to erode public trust. Again, why this platform matters. In a democracy, elections are not won by silence. They are won by credibility, trust, and constant engagement. The NDC government has, within just 17 months in office, taken decisive steps to stabilize the economy, restore investor confidence, and implement people-centered policies. But governance alone is not enough. Communication is governance. We commend the efforts of the Minister for Government Communication through the Accounting to the People series. However, political misinformation requires a political response, firm, direct, and unapologetic. That is why Setting the Record Straight is back. Let this serve as both a notice and a warning. The NDC is not afraid of criticisms. In fact, we welcome constructive scrutiny. But we will not tolerate deliberate falsehoods, character assassination, and coordinated propaganda. Every lie will be confronted with facts. Every distortion will be corrected with evidence. We are committed to ensure that the Ghanaian voter is informed, not misled. Fellow Ghanaians, this is not about politics as usual. This is about protecting the integrity of our democracy. We have demonstrated through policy and performance our commitment to national development. We will match this with an equal commitment to truth. And to our appointees. I also commend all appointees for making the work of our communication team more effective. In government, the most challenging aspect of public communication is having to justify avoidable missteps. So far, we have avoided that, and we must maintain that standard. Let us remain united, stay grounded, and continue to honor the trust Ghanaians placed in us through their decisive mandate. Finally, on behalf of our national chairman, Honorable Johnson Asiedu Nketia, and our General Secretary, Honorable Fifi Fiavi Kwete, and all executives, I extend our appreciation to our regional, constituency, and branch executives for keeping the party cohesive through what has been a demanding period. As we undertake our reorganization, let us do so with discipline and unity, ensuring the process strengthens rather than distracts from our mission. From today, setting the record straight becomes a continuous, strategic, and uncompromising platform to kill Jandam and misinformation from the NPP. We will speak, we will correct, we will defend the truth every single day. Thank you very much. And let me also take this opportunity to inform you that the General Secretary will also be having a press conference next week to address the state of our reorganization. Thank you very much for your attention. Ene yefre nsɛmtwerɛfoɔ nhyiamu a na
Right, so that is Godwin Akpo-Gan there. He is the Deputy National Communication Officer of the governing NDC, and he says that they are bringing back a show called Setting the Record Straight, where they say they are going to counter mis and disinformation, especially coming from the camp of the opposition NPP. He says that they do not want the NPP to control the narrative now. They want to speak directly to Ghanaians, and what they call Jandam, which they claim is false information, which is spewed by the NPP, will now be countered by the governing NDC. Right, and we have our correspondent Collins from Pond there, who will be bringing us more on that subsequently. But in the meantime, though, the Professor Ajiman Bedu Akosa-led committee report is raising tough questions about who gets held accountable when a patient dies at the hospital, while the committee named 4 doctors and 3 nurses for negligence. It said nothing about the role of Kolebu, Rage and police hospitals, even though Charles Emisa was moved between all 3 while in a life-threatening condition. That has left some asking why the 3 institutions were spared while individual staff were singled out. And the Ghana Medical Association is questioning whether it was fair to publish the names of the health workers before any disciplinary hearing. The committee's report, which was presented yesterday, justified the referral, maintaining that Charles Emisa's death was avoidable had the medical officers on duty attended to him.
Again, Kolebu Hospital, there was no joy. In fact, he was moved on to go to UGMC, but the ambulance crew refused to move. And at 0030, 118 minutes later, patient was pronounced dead. And the pathology confirms a slow death from medical neglect and was not from the instant trauma. What it means is that if at any of these facilities there had been medical intervention, Charles Emisa could have survived. Now, the key findings. Charles Emisa died of exsanguination, excessive loss of blood due to an upper right arm bone and soft tissue injury, causing damage to the axillary and brachial arteries and veins following a road traffic accident. Death of Charles Emisa could have been avoided by medical intervention at the police hospital, the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, or Kolebu Teaching Hospital. If the ambulance crew had applied compression on the laceration and packed the deep wound prior to transportation, they could have stopped the bleeding. They could also have administered intravenous fluids in the ambulance whilst moving. That would have restored the blood volume. And if in the hospitals they had either given intravenous fluids or whole blood, either in police, the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, or Kolebu Teaching Hospital, they would have maintained life.
Well, he says management of the 3 hospitals, the Medical and Dental Council and the Nursing and Midwifery Council, must take charge of the matter and take the 7 officers through disciplinary procedure.
Dr. Anne-Marie Kudowo failed to exercise ethical and professional judgment prudently by not attending to Charles Emisa in a life-threatening condition at police hospital, leading to his death later from severe loss of blood. And she was untruthful to the committee. Dr. Anne-Marie Kudowo should be referred to the management of police hospital and to the Medical and Dental Council for disciplinary action against her for breach of professional duty to Charles Emisa and for being untruthful to the committee. Dr. Nina Naomi Ejram Adotevi should be referred to the management of Greater Accra Regional Hospital as their employer. They have oversight, administrative and management disciplinary processes that they must go through, and the Medical and Dental Council for disciplinary action against her for breach of professional duty to Charles Emisa. Dr. Ida Durant should be referred to the management of Kolebu Teaching Hospital and Medical and Dental Council for disciplinary action against her for breach of professional duty to Charles Emisa. Dr. Genevieve Ajar should be referred to the management of Kolebu Teaching Hospital and Medical and Dental Council for disciplinary action against her for breach of professional duty to Charles Emisa. Ms. Akosia B. Texan should be referred to the management of Greater Accra Regional Hospital and to the Nurses and Midwives Council for disciplinary action against her for breach of professional duty to Charles Emisa. Ms. Joy Daisy Nelson should be referred to the management of Korle Bu Teaching Hospital and the Nurses and Midwives Council for disciplinary action against her for breach of professional duty to Charles Emisa. Ms. Salamatu Al-Hassan Edu should be referred to Korle Bu Teaching Hospital and Nurses and Midwives Council for disciplinary action against her for breach of professional duty to Charles Emisa.
Well, these findings have since generated public uproar, with the critique now moving towards the committee's decision to take on the medical officers and leaving the hospitals off the hook. Listen to former registrar of the Medical and Dental Council, Dr. Eli Kwesi Atikui.
I mean, they went to the police hospital. We should be able to establish what are the protocols at the police hospital when a patient comes in. If the police hospital also really, because once you get into a hospital, the hospital owes you a duty of care. And if there is that breach of duty of care, and as I said, that breach really causes harm, then there is element of negligence. So the police hospital as an institution could also be held accountable. Then you go to the Greater Accra Hospital, the same thing happened. You go to Korle Bu Teaching Hospital, similar thing happened. Why do we just pick up only the practitioners who were on duty at that time and want to hold them accountable? What is the situation in the institution that has put them? Should the institution just be put aside and we just hold the individuals accountable? In this case, my answer is no.
Well, he also says sanction against the medical officers could include the withdrawal of their practicing licenses.
When, after discussions or after the penal cases committee had really gone through and realized that the practitioners have a case to answer, then the case is referred to the disciplinary committee, where the disciplinary committee will sit as a court to really deliberate on the issue. And then at the end of the day, when the practitioner is found guilty, there are three forms of sanctions that are meted to the practitioner. One, to reprimand the practitioner. Two, to suspend the practitioner over a period so determined by the Medical and Dental Council, or the disciplinary committee will cause the practitioner's name to be struck off the register of registered practitioners. So basically that ends the process of disciplinary action in the event that is required.
And the Ghana Medical Association also in the last couple of hours has issued an internal memo which has been cited by Joy News, and here are the details. And it says, dear colleagues, the leadership of the Ghana Medical Association has taken note of the outdooring of the report of the investigative committee published by the Minister of Health to examine the circumstances surrounding the unfortunate death of Charles Emisa. They continue to say that these findings further reinforce the need for sustained investment in emergency systems, referral pathways, staffing, equipment, and accountability structures across our health facilities rather than an ad hoc measure. It says that unfortunately the publication of the names of these health workers who were on duty during the process has caused the media discussion on the matter to focus attention and attacks on these named individuals rather than the wider systemic issues. It concludes by saying that the GMA will immediately commence processes to secure an official copy of the report in order to ascertain details of the matter. Let's get on to Zoom right now, and I've been joined by the General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association. Welcome to the program. You've questioned the transparency of the report. Is it your position that the committee did not do a thorough job? Can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me, please?
Welcome to the program. Did you hear my question, please?
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you for having us, and then good afternoon to your listeners. Indeed, if you listen to the tone of our memo, the association has not questioned the report per se, has welcomed its work that it has done, especially because we are yet to cite the official full report, the full document. What we have seen is a few pages of a summary of the full report, listing out critical issues as shared in the media, as we all saw. And so for us, first is to find out what the full report says, the full details, and then we would review it and then see what next course of action to take. What we have expressed worry about is the fact that, one, there seems out of 14 findings, including what pertains to the National Ambulance Service, including systemic findings, including what could be done pre-hospital, and then the need for investments to solve systemic issues. The whole focus has shifted onto the health professionals, particularly the doctors and nurses who are so named in the report. What has happened subsequently is direct attacks, generalization, scapegoating of all health professionals, which we do not think augurs well for emergency care. And that seems to have shifted focus from the general picture. If you listen clearly to what Dr. Atikwi, the former registrar of the Medical and Dental Council, our regulator, said, it is not only the individuals that need to be held accountable. The facilities, what protocols do they have in place? What administrative structures do they have in place? Supervisory structures do they have in place? If we do not take care, we will punish health professionals, scapegoat them, but the issues persist. Just 2 weeks ago, I was back in Hwidium, where I work, and my colleagues have had to contribute to sponsor fuel for an ambulance to be able to then move a child from that place to Konfanochi or so. We can punish the people all we like, but if we don't deal with the structural issues, as we speak, people by now are begging ambulances to reduce the fuel cost so that they can move between one facility to the other. Ambulances are still moving between facilities without knowing where they go. There are still less than 200 beds for the emergency beds in total, including private, in Accra, for the over 6 million people who live in Accra. And no matter what we do, if we don't address the systemic issues, we would come back to this story, just as we've come back to it almost 3 times, as sad as it is. And so for us, we don't run away from accountability, and we believe that our members should be held to the highest standards of professional care and accountability. But we believe that what has been done, especially naming them out there, especially when we haven't gone through the full rigors of the disciplinary process as spelled out by the regulator, where we will now quantify the extent of what they may have done and contributed to what has happened, then moves to the disciplinary committee, where they will now ascribe appropriate sanctions for the involvement in this matter, before they would have opportunity to either appeal or etc. We are already put their names out, crucifying them. Some are already receiving threats on their social media pages and direct messages to themselves. We think that bit was unfair, And we think that it would have been better proceeding without that aspect of it.
The harm, as you put it, has already been caused. So what really do you want to be done?
Well, what we are saying is, again, like I have said, let's stop the scapegoating. Let's look at what is necessary to be done on the systemic level. Their names are out already, which we find regrettable. We will, as an association, we have comments processes to provide psychological support to our colleagues. We also will provide the necessary support to them as they go through the processes, in the penal and disciplinary processes. But we think that there are 14 findings. If you go through the document, for example, one of the first findings they talk about is the fact that if the ambulance service, the officers, were able to apply pressure and then also offer IV fluids, he may have survived as well.
Right.
We need to equip them with the necessary skills and equip them with the tools to be able to not only be a vehicle that moves from one place to the other, but as an extension of an emergency room where you can offer emergency care whilst waiting to be attended to in a formal environment. And so for us, these are things that we think we must look at. The emergency fund, which the committee also proposes, is needed just as yesterday than even today, because people are still paying and negotiating with ambulance service before ambulance can move between one facility to the other. We are waiting to also see the ministry launch the emergency command center and the national bed management system that we have heard about, which can ensure that before an ambulance moves from Fidium and goes to Kofanoche, or moves from Sapeliga to Zebila, or moves from Ho to wherever, they know that there's a bed available for that specific type of condition, that they are moving to that place to be managed, rather than moving to that place before you get to know. And then we are waiting to see the ramping up of emergency beds, the training, and of course, a reorientation of the health professionals. Largely, the majority of health professionals are doing their best, and lumping them together, even if we assume the few have done wrong, may end up demoralizing health professionals, and we should not do that.
Dr. Salome, there's a saying that with great power comes equal responsibility. You, of course, are defending your members for their names being put out. But there are also concerns that if it were to be something good that they did and their names were put out, you would have applauded them. You wouldn't have been raising these concerns. Because really, there are a lot of concerns about how medical officers' neglect and negligence often lead to the death of several patients across our various hospitals. Is this statement a subtle warning that if anything like that ever happens again, they shouldn't be named and shamed publicly as has been done?
I'm sure you read our statement to our members quite clearly. And again, let me state for certainty that the Medical Association does not shield any member who conducts himself in a non-professional manner. And once established, and if you go to the Medical and Dental Council, there are many medical professionals who are taken on, some are sanctioned, their license seized, as Dr. Tikwi has mentioned. I'm sure you don't cover those, and you don't see us in the media defending anybody. What I'm saying specifically is that we must find a fine balance between holding people accountable. Like you said, with great power or responsibility comes accountability. It is not the medical officer in the front line's job to provide the beds. Have you held the Kolebu Teaching Hospital Management accountable? Have we held the head of that department accountable? Have we held the head of National Ambulance accountable for making sure that we don't have to be negotiating for hours to buy fuel for the to move?
Right. So your main issue is
that is the point we are making.
The pick and choose, you'd say.
Of course, we are picking and choosing, as Dr. Tikwi said. In places, even in our laws, facilities are responsible for the conduct of their professionals that work there. We haven't heard anywhere in the report where the facility is being held accountable. Okay? And in other places, there's what we call differential liability, when certain incidences occur, they will check and see, are there protocols? Are there administrative procedures? Are there checks and balances that the facility has provided? Training, adequate training and supervision has been provided. And then, if these are not there, they may even award part of the claim against the facility and then a part of it against the practitioner. And so we are saying that when we build systems, and that is best practice these days, to move away from just punishments and sanctions regimes to systemic quality improvement initiatives, so that even if it is the devil who comes within the system, he will be forced to do the right thing. If the alternative is that if we just keep punishing, like I have said, we can punish 100 doctors today, but that doesn't stop the fact that the ambulance does not have fuel to move between facilities. That doesn't stop the fact that there are barely 200 beds that are always available to take care of emergencies within the country, within Accra. And that doesn't stop the fact that certain attitudes may not change. And that is why we are asking for a holistic approach. And this does not and must not be misconstrued to mean that we are defending anyone. We have said, let them go through the processes. So far as the process is fair, just, and equitable, you will not even hear GMA say we are defending anyone once the person is proven to have misconducted himself. We are just saying, let them go through the processes, and whatever wrong is found, the necessary sanctions can be applied. But don't leave the facilities out, else we will continue having this and we'll continue scapegoating and nothing will really change. We'll come back and discuss this, just as we've discussed multiple incidents over the years.
Dr. Richard Salome, thank you very much. This is General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association. And as we all have become aware, this is not the first time a no-bed syndrome has led to a patient, and similar investigations being done. And my colleague James Aveji is joining me in the studio with details of more of this. And James, first, how many of such cases have we been able to identify as a result of no-bed syndrome leading to the death of somebody in the last decade?
Yes, Ken. So we've been tracking this, and in the last decade, we've recognized a number of no-bed syndrome rejections. But our focus now is on which ones have led to death situations, and we tracked at least 5 of those, and most of them are similar in nature. You could see them repeating one after the other. The first one was in 2018, where Prince Antonio Poku Champong, who was a 70-year-old man, died at the Lekma Hospital in 2018. Before he died at the Lekma Hospital, he was referred to 7 separate hospitals, and the Lekma Hospital was the 7th out of the hospitals he was rejected at. And unfortunately or sadly, he died in his car at the Lekma Hospital. A number of issues happened, which I'll talk to you about later when we come back to this issue, because he also had a huge national attention, and also had the institution of an investigative committee by the Ghana Health Service who looked into the case. And I also tell you about the recommendations of that particular committee at the end of their work and whether something has happened out of that. The second case is that of Angela Ifrie Ajiman, who was a pregnant woman, went to the Suntresu Government Hospital and died at that hospital because she needed emergency to save her and the baby, the unborn baby. That was not delivered because they said there was no bed at that particular hospital, leading to her death. Then was the third incident, which happened in April 2015. And this patient also died because he couldn't access ICU care at the Tamale Teaching Hospital. It became a big issue. It came up when this patient was referred to the Tamale Teaching Hospital for some emergency operation care. The Tamale Teaching Hospital at the time said the beds in the ICU at the time, which were 4 beds, were occupied, and there was no space even at the emergency ward to take care of him. The back and forth, by the time the nurses could get a place to treat him, the gentleman had died. It led to an agitation. The whole community thronged to the hospital, led to an agitation. It even had the health minister, the current health minister, Kwabena Mintah-Akandor, traveling all the way from Accra to the northern region, and there was a back and forth between him and the medical director of the Tamale Teaching Hospital, and he alleged negligence on the part of the doctors. The GMA who just spoke to us described that incident as a harassment of the medical director of the Tamale Teaching Hospital. It led to the back and forth. There was an industrial action. The GMA, the doctors, they had to go on strike. They had to send some equipment before they came back, resume work at the Tamale Teaching Hospital. The fourth incident, which has brought us to this conversation now, is Charles Emesa, whose incident occurred in February of 2026. The final report, which we are talking about, some 3 months later, which the last one occurred just a week ago in the late April 2026, where a pregnant woman went to the Kaswa hospital, the mother and child hospital there, also needed a cesarean session for delivery, but the managers or the officials there say that they do not have bed at the recovery unit where she will be sent after that cesarean section and giving birth. And so they hesitated in attending to her, and eventually that pregnant woman and the unborn child died just a week ago at Kaswa. So those are the 5 incidents we've tracked so far in terms of this quote and unquote medical negligence resulting from no bed at our hospitals in the country. Now we can go back to the first incident where there was investigations into the matter and some recommendations were made. The recommendations were very similar to what we had. The first one was that there was a directive, and that committee which investigated the matter was instituted by the Ghana Health Service. And Ken, interestingly, the head of the Ghana Health Service at the time was Dr. Nsia Asari, who later became the advisor to the president on health issues. And his committee recommended that, one, no hospital, especially government hospital, should turn any patients away as far as emergency issues are concerned. And so we saw the same thing in the report of yesterday, that no hospital should turn any patient away. So that's the similarity, one. Two, the use of temporary treatment spaces when beds are fully occupied at the hospital. In fact, if you look at that recommendation, it says patients should be treated, emergency cases should be attended to either on trolleys or on chairs or sofas if they are available in the hospital, or even to the extent of doctors being compelled to treat patients on the bare ground if that is the only available option at the hospital. Then there was also the recommendation for a national bed tracking system, which we now have in this particular recommendation, which the health ministry started something on before the committee report even came out. There was also the call to strengthen referral coordination with ambulance services and impose sanctions for refusal of emergency care at the hospitals. In fact, the then Deputy Minister for Health, Dr. Okoboy, who later on became a health minister, as part of the conversations also recommended an emergency fund, a fund that will be dedicated to emergency cases where, sometimes the nearest hospital could be a private hospital. Right. And because the patients sometimes are not able to pay for the medical attendance, the then Deputy Health Minister, which became a minister, said, we need to dedicate a fund that will be dedicated to emergency care, where even if the case is taken care of by a private hospital, they could claim it either through the National Health Insurance Scheme or other ways, so that the fear for non-payment of bills, which will compel them to turn away patient, will be dealt with. All of those recommendations are what has been repeated, and even more in the recent recommendation that we have seen. The big question now is whether this is enough for us to learn as a country and implement these recommendations to the latter, so that we do not come back to have another conversation, an Emesa Charles Emisa-like conversation at the back of all of what we have been seeing in the last few hours.
James Aveji, thank you very much. Let's go onto Zoom right now and speak to Dr. Kwame Sapon Asiedu. He's a CDD fellow in public health. Dr. Asiedu, grateful for your time this afternoon. I want us to begin with the Ghana Medical Association statement condemning the public naming of the officers who have been referred to the disciplinary committee. Do you agree with them that they didn't handle it well, how they named them publicly, the committee?
Thanks, Kenneth. This is a very tricky one. Everyone who knows me knows that I'm a social media animal. And therefore, I can understand from the social standpoint why the Ghana Medical Association would raise concerns about the names of the affected health professionals being put out, because people can be pretty nasty on social media. But the other side of it is that the Professor Akusa committee was a fact-finding committee. And normally fact-finding committees would put the full facts out and make recommendations. You have to realize that they have to balance the needs for confidentiality and privacy on the health professionals' part to the pressures that would also come from the general public. Because assuming, without admitting, that the names were not put out, I could also see pushback from the general public saying, oh, they just said that some people would be recommended, but this is Ghana. In Kusiaga, or nothing would happen. You understand me? So when you find yourself between the rock and a hard place like that, you've got to make some informed judgments. The question I ask myself is, if the committee felt they were totally guilty, they wouldn't have asked for a recommendation to the disciplinary committee. When someone asks for a recommendation to a disciplinary committee, then in their view, they think they have enough evidence to suggest culpability. And I did speak to you earlier, and I said that that is a standard litmus test in health. It's called the Bolam test, which has existed as far back as 1957. It's a medical legal terminology which simply asks a simple question. Would a competent health professional with a minimum level of expertise have acted in a similar way to the actions of the health professionals in question? If the answer is no, then a straight referral is recommended. And because of all this confusion, I've taken my time and I've crafted an article, because I told myself that I wasn't going to write about this again, because I've been writing since 2011 on this, on different aspects, and even your colleague was highlighting some of it, and recommendations that are no different from the recommendations in this particular report. So, but because of all the, the squad that has come, I have had to put the sequence out and make the arguments as to why the recommendations on this occasion should be implemented to the latter, and also to try and, in layman's language, explain the Bolam test to the general public, and as to why that may have been the reason why the names were put out. So it's a fine balance that is in operation here. You are damned if you do, and you are damned if you don't. The medical professionals, even like GMA, would have a view that you shouldn't. The general public will have a view that if you didn't, then it's a whitewash, because you're just saying that some people, why are they ghosts? And I would own up. I have done that, on a number of occasions where even the police have arrested people on Galamsey sites, and they said they follow people. I've gone on the police website and said, why are the police officers, don't they have names? And they are on my Facebook wall. It's because I have felt that if there are really faces to those names, you put them out. And eventually the police have had to put the names out. So I know how social media pressure can swing one way or the other. So we need to see that balance.
Right. They also raised the point that those officers are being scapegoated, really, because there are more heads of some institutions who should have been named publicly in the committee report. Why just those officers? Those are some of the concerns they raise as well. They say it's just a matter of scapegoat.
Ken, I think I was speaking to yourself on Newsnight, and I made the point that one of the things, because I'm aware that a document exists since 2011 that outlines how operations should go on at emergency units in the country. And I asked the question, are there standard operating procedures in these health facilities that guide how health professionals working in the emergency department should operate? And I did say that if they weren't, then I'd have serious issues with the health institutions as well. So I wouldn't fault the GMA if they have issues with the health institutions because these processes are not in place. And yes, that is something they can raise, which is very valid, because I raised it even before this was raised with you on a previous program. So for me, that is something that should be looked into by the regulator, because that falls within the abode of HEFRA to go in and say, what was the operational guidance under which these health professionals were operating? Because you cannot, if you read the report, it doesn't, I don't see anywhere it accuses any of the health professionals of negligence.
Right.
It clearly says, and I have pointed that out in the article I've written, that the patient died from medical neglect. So the neglect started right from the ambulance that couldn't stop the bleeding, all through the health facilities, through the fact that the basic life support could not be provided, advanced life support could not be provided, to the point where the health professionals wouldn't see this patient, to the point where they unfortunately died. And the neglect happened for 118 minutes. It's documented. So in that case, you cannot say, you need to hold accountability across the chain. And that I agree with. And I did point that out to you yesterday as well. So I can understand as well why that would be raised. But I don't think that is too late, because that is catalogued in the report. So again, HEFRA can pick that up. The regulators of the, the National Ambulance Agency can pick it up. Is it a training issue where the people haven't been given adequate training to be able to provide these services to the Ghanaian public? So there are a lot of questions, and that is why I keep saying that if you zone down on the recommendations of the people who have to go to their institutions or to their disciplinary committees, you miss the point of the reports. For me, that is not the story. The story is the sequence of events that were totally avoidable because there's a similar report in existence from as far back as 2017, 2018 that wasn't implemented, to the fact that we are having the same conversations and the same recommendations are coming out. That for me is the story.
Right. I mean, I was baffled when my colleague was running us through that recommendation. And really, that is the exact same recommendation that has been rehashed today.
Well, that's the point I was making. And that is why in 2021, when the ambulances were coming, some of us were very strong that just buying one ambulance for each district or each constituency would not solve the problem, because the underlying guidance from how emergency systems should run in the country, which was altered in 2011, to the recommendations of that report that you're referring to, had not been implemented in full. So the ambulances were just peppering over the cracks. And we now have a situation where we are told that the ambulances were brought in, but the technicians who are in the ambulances do not have the skill mix to provide you with the service required in those ambulances.
Interesting. That's a whole lot of mess, if you ask me. But thank you very much, Dr. Kwame Asiedu-Sapon. He is a CDD fellow in public health. Well, if you are a medical professional and you're tired of the work, resign. That's the call by the chairman of the Health Committee of Parliament, KET. Nawani Mark. He made the remarks after the committee set up to investigate the death of Charles Emisa presented its findings to the committee. During the presentation, the chairman of the committee, Ajiman Bedu Akosa, recommended disciplinary action against several health professionals for breach of professional duty to the deceased. He added that Charles Emisa's death had nothing to do with unavailability of beds as initially reported.
And you have a duty of care professionally and ethically to any sick person that is brought to you. The nurses failed to triage, because if they had triaged properly, they would have noted that this patient was red and therefore at severe risk. So the inability to do that, of course, compromised everything else. And of course, as far as the doctors were concerned, again, it's a breach of the duty of care. The patient is brought to you, and we say this all the time. If you go to a mall and somebody collapses, you will not say there's no bed, so you are not going to stabilize the person. You will do what it is that you have to do, and call for an ambulance to pick the person, but at least you would administer first aid. And we think that that should become the norm. If the patient, Charles Emisa, had been triaged in all the 3 hospitals, he would have been marked as red and therefore needed immediate care. And that is what happened. So as far as the nurses were concerned, their inability to triage the patient, was a failure of professional duty. As far as, let's go to the lack of formal handing over procedures and the lack of proper chain of command interaction. On the ambulance, there were emergency medical technicians and there were senior emergency medical technicians. It appears as if once you get to hospital, one person goes to the triage center and requests that they brought an ambulance. They should come and pick the patient. There was nothing like.
Well, the chairman of the Health Committee, Maket Nawani, also commended the committee for identifying and publishing the names of the doctors involved and urged health professionals who are willing to work to do so ethically or resign.
At the site of injury, you just say go away. I'm not talking about hospital. The site of injury, you go and see somebody being injured. I mean, this is an external one that you can see. This is not internal bleeding. You can see the external, I believe so. You just leave that person. Would you look for some way? I've seen people help people without wearing gloves, just to save their lives. We must, as a nation, speak the truth. We must, as a nation, and the press, let us also get this truth out there. That, like you say, this has nothing to do with no bed syndrome. But that was the name that was given to it. And that was probably the investigation or the referral that was given to the committee. And it has happened at Kaswa, where somebody who has been admitted, he has spent 36 hours there and they are saying no bed. Has it been lying on the floor all that time that there was no bed at the recovery ward? Do you need to do a cesarean section and send the person automatically or compulsorily to a recovery ward? We have all practiced, possibly in Accra and out of Accra. I think Dr. Uno will tell you what he used to do when he was at the periphery, so far as cesarean sections are concerned. The bed that you lie on, you can be operated and brought back to that same bed. And only few people might have to remain at the recovery ward. is that those procedures can be carried out once you are in the ward. And so I want to thank you very much. In fact, yesterday I did not listen to it live, but when I came, I Googled, went to YouTube, and tried to listen to whatever was coming out. And immediately we started mentioning medical negligence, and even started coming with names. I said, thank God, this is a step forward. This is a step forward.
From health, let's take you to the court now, where the Deputy Attorney General, Justice Sremsai, has pushed back against former Attorney General Godfrey Dame over claims that Abdul Wahab Hanan was denied access to legal counsel, describing the allegations as false, baseless and calculated to mislead the public. In a rare interview granted to the press at the premises of the High Court here in Accra, Justice Sremsai accused Godfrey Dame of abandoning due process in favor of what he described as a media campaign, insisting the former Attorney General chose to be jumping from one media house to the other instead of engaging Yoko officials directly over the rearrest and fresh charges against his clients.
He shouldn't be too dramatic about this. I spoke with him in the courts on Hanan in particular, and he made some requests, some of which have been granted, others may be granted in the future, and others have been refused. When Hanan was sent to Iyoko, he was supposed to just be interrogated immediately, then he will be discharged. But he fell sick and was taken to the hospital. And when he came back, instead of his lawyers, the former Attorney General, Deputy Attorney General, to come so that interrogation would be done, he chose to rather be granting interview in his office and in the media and calling into radio programs to say things that he knows are wrong and are not true.
That's the Deputy Attorney General, Justice Sremsai. Let's now take you live to the Yoko headquarters, where my colleague Fatao Bayaga is standing by with the latest. Fatao, Sremsai has also been responding to claims by Godfrey Dame that Yoko failed to disclose fresh evidence in the case. What exactly has he been saying?
Justice Sremsai says that the former Attorney General does not have the moral authority to wanting to know the charges or the fresh evidence that AG claims that they have against his client, because basically yesterday interrogators were waiting here at the Yoko headquarters waiting for Godfrey Dame and his other legal team members to come here so that they can have a conversation about this issue and many others. But he chose to be granting media interviews, moving from one media house to the other, without coming to engage the interrogators in relation to this particular issue. So basically what he said is that Godfrey Dame does not have the moral authority because interrogators were waiting, ready to talk to him, but he wouldn't show up. We can take a listen to him.
Instead of him to accompany his clients to do interrogation, through the interrogation, he's sitting on TV, calling to radio programs and talking. But his client will be going for interrogation today. He was discharged yesterday. He'll be going for interrogation today. That is when he will know. If he chooses not to be on radio and follow him, he will definitely know where the fresh evidence. He has no basis to know whether there's fresh evidence or not, because he has not accompanied his client to the office. His client was not well and was taken to the clinic yesterday. When they came back, the interrogators were waiting for him to come, because you cannot interrogate a suspect in the absence of his lawyer. And we know the accused person had lawyers. So it is fair and right and the proper thing to do to wait for the lawyers to come. He was nowhere to be found. See, he is claiming that, and I am telling you that most of the time yesterday was spent waiting for him and his lawyers to come, and he never showed up. I think it was the same time that he was on TV and radio granting interviews. And I think that, you see, there should be some basic principles with which all of us work. Because I've had personal conversation with him on the day we withdrew the charges. And he made specific requests, some of which have been granted.
What are those requests?
This is a professional conversation, and I wouldn't want to disclose, and I think his client. So I expect him to respect the confidence I have in him as a former Attorney General and the conversation we had.
Fatao, Sremsai also appeared visibly disturbed by comments made by the former Attorney General regarding judges handling the Attorney General's cases. What was his reaction?
Ken, the disappointment was palpable on his face as he addressed the press in that rare interview in front of the High Court here in Accra. He said, according to the former AG, during his time, they assign experienced judges to some of these cases. But Sremsai said that his duty is not to assign judges. That is the work of the Chief Justice. So if indeed Dame at his time or during his time assigned judges to, handle some of these cases, then it is problematic. That is not his duty. And in fact, he continued by saying that the judges who are handling these high-profile cases, they are highly experienced. They've been doing this job for a very long time. In fact, he said one of them is a Court of Appeal judge who comes in to sit as a High Court judge to handle some of these high-profile cases. So it is misleading. It is baseless for the former Attorney General to say that it's inexperienced judges who are assigned to handle these cases. We can take a listen to him.
He said their time they used to assign cases to, what was this? They used to assign cases to experienced judges. My duty as an Attorney General is not to assign cases. It is the Chief Justice that assigned cases. So if he, at his time, was playing the role of the Chief Justice and assigning cases to people he considered to be experienced judges, that is problematic. Besides that, all the cases we have assigned, or all the cases that have been assigned, or the judges hearing all these cases, are judges who were in the High Court long before. That should be experienced. You don't come to the High Court unless you are experienced. And they are as far as I know, those judges are judges. One is even coming from Court of Appeal to hear the matter. So it makes us wonder what he means by experience. Is this something that we don't know about? So for a former Attorney General who is now into private practice, I know he has to earn his fees, but there must be some basic principles on which lawyers, even private lawyers, earn their fees, let alone a lawyer who was occupying the high office of the Attorney General.
Right, so that's the Deputy Attorney General, Justice Sremsai there. Fatao, you're currently at the Yoko headquarters. Have you seen the former Attorney General and his clients arrive for the scheduled engagement?
Ken, the former Attorney General isn't here. He did not come here today. He said that his junior lawyers would handle all the issues to do with the interrogation here today. And that big building that you see behind me, that's the Iyoko's headquarters. And as I speak with you, that interrogation is over here. It took about 2 hours, the lawyers answering questions to the, imposed by the Iyoko officials, I must say. And I saw Abdul Wahab Hanan himself. He was, looking, a bit, relieved, if I may put it that way, clad in an African print. He was smiling and making calls all over. His wife, herself, Faiza Winnie, clad in a white attire, also, monitoring or, engaging some of the lawyers here. So that engagement is over. But one thing, they will not talk to me on record, Ken, but they said that the allegations made by the Deputy Attorney General that they were not here yesterday is a palpable false. Yesterday they were here from morning. They were waiting to get access to their clients, but the Iyoko officials here allegedly declined that opportunity. And in fact, according to them, some of the officers here told them that it is an order from above that they wouldn't have access to their client or engage anyone. So it was later in the day that they had calls that they should come and that their client had been granted bail around 7:45 p.m. So they've been responding squarely to some of these allegations made by the deputy AG. So Ken, at the moment, the conversation is over. They said that the Yoko officials said they would call them again for a further conversation. But one interesting thing that I wanted to hear from them was to know whether they were told about the fresh evidence that the AG, strongly or vehemently spoke about the last time. They said that nothing of that sort emerged in their conversation. So as we speak, they do not still know why their client was arrested, and that for them is really problematic, because in fact for them they should have at least got to appreciate the reasons behind the arrest of their client, and that would also inform them to or inform them about what step to take next. But at the moment, they still don't know, and they are waiting for when Yoko would call them again for this very important conversation.
Fatal, thank you very much. You're still watching The Pulse here on Joy News. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back with more. Welcome back. Ghana is set to train 1 million citizens in coding and digital technology skills under the newly launched 1 Million Coders program, a national initiative aimed at strengthening the country's digital workforce. The program is open to students, job seekers, working professionals and entrepreneurs, and will be delivered through a hybrid model combining online platforms, virtual instructor-led sessions, and selected in-person centers nationwide. Training is free or largely subsidized, runs in cohorts across multiple phases, and will prioritize inclusion for women, persons with disabilities, and underserved communities. Participants will complete courses and will receive industry-recognized certificates. And to talk more on this, I've been joined in the studio by Nana Echa Amwa Emisa. She is the Deputy CEO of GIFEC and a member of the OMCP Implementation Committee. And also joining me is Fred Yabua. He's the Director of Research and Innovation and a member of the OMCP Implementation Committee. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I want to start with you because they say the ladies first. This was one of the highlights of the NDC campaign in training the youth for them to gain employment. I'm wondering, this 1 million coding program that you've launched, how will it benefit people, especially those in rural areas in Ghana?
Thank you, Ken, and thank you for having us. So you did a bit of an introduction. Let me add a bit of context as well to the program. The 1 Million Coders program is a flagship initiative by His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama. It aims to equip 1 million Ghanaians with free, accessible digital skills for jobs, for entrepreneurship, and for future economy. The program is open to all Ghanaians, whether you're a young person stepping into the workforce for the first time, a graduate seeking specialization, a worker upskilling because of a changing economy, or if you're just curious and you want to build your own digital capabilities. The interest we have seen across the country so far is remarkable. And it tells us that the program is meeting a real need and a growing demand. On rural and underserved communities specifically, this is where the design choices of the program really matter. So the training delivery network has been intentionally distributed, anchored not just on universities, but also on GIFEC's community information centers, our regional innovation centers, which sit in the underserved areas, and on partnerships with districts and municipalities, specifically to identify fit-for-purpose locations in the local communities. And so the principle behind all of this for us is straightforward. No one should be left behind. The program has been designed to meet learners where they are, particularly in places which have traditionally not had the opportunities as well.
Right. I want to come to you. We know that GIFEC has traditionally focused on digital access and also connectivity. So how does this program fit into GIFEC's broader mandate, really?
Apart from the provision of these infrastructure by GIFEC,
the people within the community must also benefit from opportunities that it brings, okay? And one of these opportunities can also be found from the 1 Million Coders program, where we have variety of courses, okay, from 12 different categories, okay, where people can have access to these opportunities, learn, and be able to acquire skills for future of work. During the pilot phase, there were some few challenges, okay. The pilots did feature in 4 locations, okay, where the training was only face-to-face, physical, all right? Some did complain about transportation to the place and things like that. So this phase, we have thought it wise to come out with self-paced courses, okay? So irrespective of where you are, you will be able to access a course and be able to acquire professionally recognized international certification that will give you opportunity. And that is what GIFEC and also the 1 Million Coders Committee brings to the people of Ghana.
I take it to mean that by the name 1 Million Coders Program, you are seeking to enroll 1 million people onto it, correct?
That is correct.
How many people have so far been enrolled onto it?
Okay, so let me start from maybe the pilot phase, okay? The pilot phase, we wanted to train around 500 people just to test the system and see. But within 48 hours of rolling out the platform, we received 90,150 applications. At the time of launch, when His Excellency the President was launching the program, we had 77,000. So really, you know, many people are interested in this, and we believe that it is something that is going to make an impact.
Nanaya, you wanted to say something.
Yes, I was just going to also touch on the question around where this really aligns with GIFEC. And GIFEC, you know, has always been focused on universal access and providing last mile digital inclusion. And so the 1 Million Coders program fits naturally within our broader work. We've already talked a bit about it, but for us specifically for this program, we are bringing that physical infrastructure to enable the opportunity for the training.
Fred, you talk about the piloting phase. Are you still within the piloting phase, or
No, pilot was done last year. So the phase 2 is what we are in now. That is the national rollout. But it's being rolled out in, you know, phases. So currently, we are rolling out in about 158 centers nationwide, in every region. Okay. We are now also enrolling some of the universities, okay, as well.
And what's the timeline? You're looking forward to enrolling 1 million people. What's the timeline?
The assignment that was given to the committee, we are supposed to achieve this target by the end of 2028. Okay.
We know that, Nanaya, we know that cybercrime and all these things are on the rise. People using the internet to dupe people, romance scam, a whole lot of bad things done through the internet. How do we ensure that these people that have been trained as coders do not misuse this opportunity to venture into such acts?
Yeah, so this has actually been reflected directly into the program's curriculum. So cybersecurity and data protection are key areas alongside the artificial intelligence and software development as specific courses. Some specific ones particularly are around certified cybersecurity professional, certified data protection supervisor. And at the institutional level, the Data Protection Commission has been involved, consulted and actively involved in the execution of the program. And so it's not just from a course point of view, but also just in the design, ensuring that ethical and responsible use of technology plays a big role.
We have several ICT and digital centers. How is the 1 Million Coders program going to ensure that there's not a duplication of things that are already in the system?
Yeah, so this was a deliberate design choice from the start. Rather than building parallel structures, the program is coordinated across several different agencies and institutions already working in this space. And so I've already mentioned Data Protection Commission. We have the Ghana Digital Centers. We have the Kofi Annan Centers, all under the leadership of the Ministry of Communication, Digital Technology and Innovations. And so on the delivery side, we are working with partner universities as well. There are a number of universities where we will also be offering this. And so I think the program has really just been designed to amplify what already exists and not to duplicate it.
What will success mean, Fred? What would success mean for this program?
Okay, maybe before I come to the success parameters, okay, I will also want to add to what Nana said. Just like you asked, there are a lot of initiatives out there. One thing we have seen from the implementation committee perspective is there are a lot of these people running these initiatives coming to the committee wanting to be part of this program. Okay, a typical example is there is a program that is being run called Ghana Grow Project. Okay, that is also training people to give them opportunities remotely. And we are in talks with them. They want to be part of this program so that those who will be trained, they can take them up and also provide them opportunities. Now, in terms of success, I think many people do see the 1 million as, okay, that is the target of the program, but we are looking at others as well. Apart from the training, we are also looking at trying to provide opportunities for young people to be able to get remote jobs, and not only getting jobs, but being able to be entrepreneurs to create businesses. And not only creating businesses, I'm looking at a situation where we've trained somebody from maybe Sanaregu, and the person look at his environment and be able to identify a problem and use the skill that he has acquired or she has acquired to be able to solve that problem. And that is the kind of things that we are doing. And we have put in place monitoring and evaluation frameworks in the governance structure to be able to monitor all these KPIs, so that at the end of the day, we will be able to, account to the Honorable Minister the work that he has given to us,
Nanaya, where is funding coming from, and how is this initiative going to be sustained?
So the program has been backed by 100 million Ghana cedis by the government per a government allocation. It's a concrete and budgeted commitment for this. The allocation covers infrastructure, equipment, operations across the rollout. On sustainability, we recognize that the long-term success requires multi-year funding and coordination across ministries and agencies. And those mechanisms are being built into the government framework, including monitoring and evaluation, which Fred spoke about, to track and guide where additional resources are needed as well.
Often when such programs come up, you see that where it is more profound will be in Accra, Kumasi, and maybe two other major cities, but that there's a number of other urban settlements within the country which do not have some of the infrastructure that we have here in Accra. I don't know if you can run me through the numbers. Persons outside Accra, how many people outside Accra have enrolled onto this program? And within Accra, to how many people? Is it a nationwide thing, or is it just Accra concentrated, as most programs are?
And so just like I did mention that this is happening in all the 16 regions, okay? And we've intentionally made sure that for every region, I think the minimum number of centers we have per region is, I think, 5. That's the minimum. We have,
where is that?
I think it's either OT or something like that.
Okay.
But apart from that, every region do have centers. But note that this 158 is not the end of it, okay? We are still in talks with other partners who are coming on board, okay? So as time goes on, these 158 that are there will be increasing.
Okay. Yeah. We know that many of such digital initiatives struggle with internet accessibility and even the gadgets to work. Are those being factored into the funding?
Absolutely. And that is exactly the kind of access gap for which GIFEC was initially set up to address. And so, as Fred has mentioned, in terms of the centers, the training model is designed so that participants who do not own a laptop or do not have access to reliable internet can come into one of these 158 centers across the country. Each is equipped with customized design laptops for the coding instruction, digital training. And beyond the GIFEC centers, we also have the Kofi Annan centers, the Ghana Digital Centers, universities and venues, as I've mentioned, through the districts and municipalities. So the point is that personal infrastructure should not be a barrier to participation.
With you being a woman, I'm interested in asking you this question. When it comes to science and technology, you see it being dominated largely by men. Is the interest by women profound in this?
Yes, I think so. I mean, on gender, for us, we, again, at the design of the program, we have made it one of our key priorities. We have gender parity that we are seeking. We have a target of 50-50 representation. And, you know, when it comes to also even persons with disabilities and additional vulnerable groups, we've partnered with the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection, as well as the Ghana Federation of Disability Organizations, to ensure that we are identifying the right training locations and also ensuring the right access for these participants. So the program's overarching principle is that it is open to every Ghanaian, and the implementation committee is committed to ensuring that that really happens, and we have the full range of participants that we want to reach as well.
So how long is it going to take? Is there a duration period that when somebody enrolls into this initiative, they'll have to go back? What is there a duration period?
Okay, so the second phase is 3 months, okay? 3 months from now till end of July. So we have slots in all the centers where people can book for use of the centers. And for those that are doing online from their homes, those people, after you finish the program, you can enroll in another program, okay, to progress. The idea is that if you come in as somebody who is not an IT expert, we want you such that by the time you finish the program, you become an expert. So we have different categorization of the courses. We have beginner courses, intermediate courses, advanced courses. So if you finish beginner courses, you can then move on because of the prerequisite to do intermediate course, and then you do advanced course. And all these courses that we are mentioning are also internationally recognized professional courses. And we are making sure that every program that comes on this initiative is giving the participants or the beneficiary a certificate that can be used to seek for a job or to equip you enough to be able to take advantage of the global digital economy.
And one thing I also wanted to add to what my colleague Fred is saying is that the courses are a variety in terms of the duration. And so you have courses that some may take up to 10 hours, some may take, a month and a half or even more. And so when it comes to just the diversity of courses that we are offering, you have a plethora of those as well.
And what's the long-term goal? What's the long-term goal of this? Does it even have a future? The 1 million coders program, does it have a future? I don't know, yeah.
Well, absolutely. I mean, the World Bank in itself has indicated that by 2030, 230 million jobs in sub-Saharan Africa will need to be digital. And I think that Ghana really has the opportunity right now with the 1 Million Coders program to really lead the way in digital transformation. In fact, this can be a model for Africa. In terms of our ability to train the young Ghanaians, to give them the skills and the tools to really be able to compete on the global level. And as we said earlier, we are partnering with a number of institutions to ensure that we provide these opportunities, international outsourcing opportunities, entrepreneurship here locally, as well as jobs placement.
Final words, we're wrapping up. I'm giving you a minute each. Fred, let me start with you.
Okay, so yes, I believe the program do have a future. a lot of partners have approached the implementing committee wanting to be part of the 1 million coders program. And Ken, let me mention this. You know, the tech giants, before they will come to your country, you have to have a critical mass of experts within country. So if we are able to train 10,000 cybersecurity experts, that gives opportunity for the big tech giants to start looking at Ghana as a potential area where they can recruit. If we have 20,000 database experts, again, it gives them an opportunity to look at Ghana and recruit. And that is what Indonesia, Philippines, all of them have done. Build a critical mass and the tech giants will come. And that is the ultimate goal.
Nana, Echan.
Yeah, so for me, at the heart of this program and at the heart of the work of the implementation committee, I think it's a simple commitment that the digital age must include every Ghanaian, particularly those in the underserved and rural communities. But what I would also like to highlight is that we have heard the concerns about the delays, the cost, about whether this program will deliver real jobs, and we welcome that scrutiny. It is what drives us to do better. Phase 2 is open. The centers are preparing. Partners are committed, as Fred mentioned. And so we are asking every Ghanaian, every eligible Ghanaian who hasn't registered yet to go to 1millioncodersgov.gh today. The future is digital, and 1 Million Coders program is here to stay and ensure that every Ghanaian is prepared for the journey ahead.
Nana Echan Amwa Amisa, thank you very much. She's the Deputy CEO of GIFEC and also a member of the 1 Million Coders Program Implementation Committee. We also had Fred Yabua, who's the Director of Research and Innovation and member of the 1 Million Coders Program Implementation Committee. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for passing by the studio.
Thank you.
Now, a new push to better understand the living standards of Ghanaians is underway as policy think tank Africa Policy Lens rolls out its Ghana Wellbeing Tracker with a focus on economic well-being and livelihoods. The initiative, designed to provide real-time data on how citizens are coping with economic pressures, was the subject of a stakeholder engagement bringing together policymakers, researchers, and civil society actors. The Parliamentary report has more.
The survey, conducted across all 16 regions using over 3,000 respondents drawn from the 2024 voter database, highlights a disconnect between national economic performance and household realities. Speaking at the launch in Accra on Wednesday, the Director of Research and Administration at Africa Policy Lens, Dr. Hayford Mensah Ayirakwa, said the study was designed to capture how ordinary Guineans experience the economy beyond official statistics.
Things like this, as APL has started, government should be interested in knowing the data. Give us the data. We can share the data with them for us to be able to interrogate a bit deeper. If there are still gaps, and that is why we are happy everybody is here, if there are gaps that we have to collect data on, we know that, okay, the next wave of data collection, these are equally important variables that we need to plug in.
According to the report, the Ghana Wellbeing Index stands at 58.5. Here's the former managing director of BOST, Edwin Provençal.
Have moved from rational agents to real human beings. This explains why today people feel economic hardships despite falling inflation. This is why the trust in institutions affects economic behavior.
Meanwhile, President of Africa Policy Lens, Dr. George Domfe, noted that economic conditions influence how citizens relate to one another, stressing the importance of the well-being tracker in shaping policy responses.
The findings based on the Ghana Wellbeing Tracker clearly indicates that macroeconomic stabilization has not yet translated into broad-based improvements in household being. Despite declining inflation, cost of living pressures remain high.
Africa Policy Lens says the tool is expected to fill critical data gaps and provide government and development partners with timely insights into how economic challenges are affecting households across the country.
Unsung heroes transforming lives across Ghana are gaining national recognition as Joy News prepares to honor 12 exceptional change makers at the 2026 Impact Makers Awards on May 15th at the Labadi Beach Hotel. From remote communities to urban centers, individuals are quietly changing lives through education, healthcare, water provision, disability inclusion and girl-child empowerment. Yet many of these efforts often go unnoticed and unsupported. Ahead of the awards ceremony, organizers say the initiative continues to shine a light on selfless Ghanaians whose impact is transforming communities across the country. Speaking on Joy Prime, coordinator for strategic partnerships and projects at Joy Brands, Emefa Eli said the awards continue to uncover remarkable stories of resilience, sacrifice and compassion.
Hitherto, these awards, most of them were just at the community level. They are doing so much, but no one is hearing of them. For once in their lifetime, they are getting this national and global recognition. What else would you want?
Yeah, this is very amazing.
It's been rewarding for the last 4 years. It's been rewarding personally for the group and for the various winners that have gone through this scheme. In the last 3 years, we celebrated only 10 people.
Okay.
The first edition, we had to add one person because the person was so unique in his area of impact. That was Reverend Father Campbell. And so we gave him a lifetime achievement. So for the first edition, we celebrated 11 people. The second and third, it's been 10. But this year, we are celebrating 12 impact makers.
Wow.
12. And they are coming from all over the country, doing different things. Also this year, we have introduced 2 new categories. The Disability and Inclusion Impact Makers Awards. This is to encourage as many as possible who have some form of disability but are not held back by their disability and are still making impacts. They are encouraging people, they are bettering lives, they are bettering their communities. We are celebrating these people as well. We've also introduced the Corporate Impact Partner Award. That is to celebrate companies or organizations or groups that have come together and are very strong when it comes to CRS. You know, we want to say thumbs up to them. Of course, the nature of their project is such that an individual cannot do it. And you do not want to deny them of this opportunity of being recognized. So you open up the award so that they can also put in entries. And the interesting thing is that for these 2 categories, we have had nominations. And all of them are making it for this year's awards.
Meanwhile, one of the finalists for Impact Makers 2026 Senior Success, Gwamita, who is transforming his community through quality education and clean water initiatives, said his inspiration came from growing up in a rural community in Ghana and witnessing the struggles women and children face in accessing clean water, often relying on polluted sources that expose them to illness.
Over the past 8 years, we've brought clean water to over 120 communities from the Volta region to the Eastern region to Bono East, Ahafo region, Northern region, and now we are in the Ashanti region. And we've also built 5 schools with all the modern facilities to aid in quality education. We've also established over 13 libraries and computer labs in public schools. My inspiration came from my upbringing. Growing up in rural Ghana, as I've seen or I've witnessed firsthand the struggles of women and children day by day as they try to get clean water and they end up with dirty, filthy, and polluted water that makes them sick. And this inspiration motivated me to join Hope for Ghana and make a meaningful impact and a sustainable one.
Management of the Korle Bu Hospital says recent reports questioning the credibility of laboratory results from the hospital's central laboratory are misleading and do not reflect the true standards of the facility. This comes after the Medical Laboratory Workers Union threatened industrial action over comments made by Korle Bu doctors claiming that laboratory results from the central laboratory are nearly 50% inaccurate. Ramat Bashiru has been following this development and reports.
The medical laboratory scientists had threatened an industrial action over demands for the reinstatement of a laboratory scientist as the head of the central lab and concerns over comments by the president of the Korle Bu Doctors Association alleging that over 50% of laboratory results from the facility are inaccurate. However, following discussions with the management and regulators, laboratory professionals have been urged to return to work while efforts continue to find a lasting resolution to the issue. Here is the chapter chair of the Workers' Union, John Kofi Nakoja.
But as you can see, we've been working all this while, even though aggrieved. We shall continue to work. We shall continue to serve the people. We shall continue to take every step to make sure we produce correct results.
In a statement, management of the Korle Bu Hospital dismissed reports questioning the credibility of results from the central lab, describing them as misleading. Dr. Charles Nee of Palm, Director of Pharmacy, who is acting as the head of department for the central lab, maintains that the facility continues to uphold strict professional and quality assurance standards in delivering services.
We also want to take this August opportunity to let everybody know that there's calm at the lab and they are in full readiness to serve. I was happy they told us they have contracts with the staff, they have contracts with patients, they have their samples and they are going to work on them. And by so doing, provide them with the outcome that they want. We want to take this opportunity to tell the world that Korle Bu is calm, the lab is calm. And I think next week, Tuesday, we are going to meet the minister again through the chief director, and we shall iron all the differences.
Registrar for the Ghana Association of Medical Laboratory Scientists, Professor Ishaku, also indicated that engagement with stakeholders are ongoing to ensure a lasting resolution to the issue.
Somebody to sit somewhere and say that Korle Bu results are turning out fake results is completely unacceptable. Management will actually do the needful. Look like there's some mistrust. There's some kind of mistrust between the scientists that are actually practicing and are providing the scientific services and the physicians that are supposed to also provide some service. We need to engage the two so that they will seem to respect each other, and in that case, the patient will be the beneficiary of all this quagmire.
The Korle Bu Teaching Hospital further assured patients and the public that results generated by the laboratory are valid, reliable, and meet international standards. Ramat Bashiru for Joy News.
Ghana's push to close its specialist health gap has received a major boost, with the Ghana Medical Trust Fund committing over 30 million Ghana cedis to train more specialists across the country. The funding supports 3 key health institutions and is aimed at expanding training beyond major cities, deepening decentralization and strengthening capacity to deliver advanced and tertiary care, especially in underserved regions. Nancy Kumsen has more in this report.
The Ghana Medical Trust Fund has disbursed the funds to the Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons, the Ghana College of Pharmacists, and the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association to scale up specialist training. Health Policy Advisor at the fund, Dr. Norbert Kipo, says the intervention is focused on building long-term capacity in the health sector and improving access to specialist services nationwide, particularly in deprived areas.
We started off with the Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons. We gave them a support of close to 21 million Ghana cedis, and this is to support them to expand the training centers. This is important for decentralization. What usually happens is that for doctors who want to specialize, they mostly have to come to Accra, Kumasi, and maybe Tamale. The challenge is that when doctors leave their facilities and go to train, that facility is deprived of the service that that doctor would have otherwise offered. And also once they relocate, sometimes it becomes difficult to get them to return to those facilities and offer their skill to the people there. So what the Ghana College is doing is that they want to expand these training centers in places like Upper West region, Upper East region, in Hohoi, in Techiman, in Eastern region, so that people are able to train very close to them. This allows them to continue to offer support and technical service to the various facilities that they come from.
The Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons received more than 20 million cedis under the Mahama Cares initiative. Its rector, Professor Richard Adanu, says the investment will significantly expand specialist training and help the country respond to the rising burden of non-communicable diseases.
It would also help us so that doctors in these regions would be able to get their specialization training in the regions, and then also the specialists that we produce will stay in the regions. So this would expand the access to specialists and also help support the work of the Ghana Medical Trust Fund in addressing complex non-communicable diseases in the country.
Rector of the Ghana College of Physicians, Yvonne Yenchua Eseku, says the support will enhance training quality and strengthen professional standards across institutions.
We are going to use it to train 100 specialist pharmacists. We are also going to build the capacity of our preceptors to be able to supervise and ensure that the training is up to the standard in the various institutions.
The Ghana Medical Trust Fund expects the investment to yield more specialist health professionals within the next 3 years, boosting Ghana's capacity to manage chronic diseases. For Joy News, Nancy Kumson's report, read to you.
The Consortium of Academic and Research Libraries in Ghana, CARLI, is intensifying calls for government intervention to absorb the cost of accessing critical academic resources for research as member institutions struggle to gain access to data systems coded in foreign currency. CARLI, a key driver of academic and research development across Ghana's universities, faces mounting financial pressure because most scholarly resources are procured from international publishers in dollars. This dependency has created a widening affordability gap, threatening the consortium's ability to deliver essential knowledge services.
Chair of the CARLI Management Committee and University Librarian for the University of Health and Allied Sciences, Dr. Teresa Edu, highlighted the severity of the challenge, pointing to the burden placed on member institutions.
A lot of these publishers give us codes in dollars, and so we have to pay back in dollars. And so it's very difficult for our members to raise those amounts of monies in dollars to pay in dollars. And this is one of our very big challenges. I think that one of the things that probably the government can do to help us would be to take up the payment of some of these resources.
The funding challenge comes at a time when the global conversations around equitable access to scholarly materials are gaining momentum. Despite the steady production of academic content worldwide, access remains limited due to paywalls and subscription costs, particularly in developing countries. These concerns formed the backdrop of the 5th CARLI International Conference, held under the theme, The Open Movement in Times of Urgency and Rapid Change. The conference brought together stakeholders to explore strategies for expanding access to open science, open data, and open educational resources. Dr. Edu underscored the critical link between access to information and empowerment, warning that financial barriers continue to undermine knowledge equity. Technical advisor at the Ministry of Education, Professor Akufo-Addo, emphasized the importance of strengthening community libraries, particularly in rural and underserved areas where access to information is limited.
Equipping these libraries with digital infrastructure, training, and open educational resources is not an investment in buildings or books. It is an investment in people. Community libraries can bridge the knowledge divide by providing equitable access to open knowledge, supporting lifelong learning, and empowering individuals to participate in the digital economy. They serve as local hubs for information, digital literacy, and civic engagement.
He added that well-resourced libraries can help bridge the knowledge divide by expanding access to information, promoting lifelong learning, and enabling participation in the digital economy. Reporting for Joy News, Josephine Sego, Kumasi.
Rising temperatures are turning nights into a struggle for many families across Ghana. In overheated rooms and communities battling water shortages, some residents say the extreme heat is now affecting sleep, comfort, and even intimacy. Researchers warn climate change is increasingly disrupting homes in ways many people rarely speak about. Emmanuel Jivenu has more in today's Climate Evidence.
It's past 11 p.m. at Timber Market in Accra, but sleep is still far away for many residents here. Stella Atuotanga has just returned from taking her third bath of the night. Wrapped in cloth and holding the bucket, she slowly climbs the wooden stairs leading to the room she shares with her fiancé. Inside, the heat waits for her again.
The heat is too much, so you have to pour water on your body so that you'll be somehow comfortable. Yeah. So you have to bath like maybe 3 or 4 times a day.
The room is small. The wooden structure traps the heat from the day and releases it slowly through the night.
The weather will be cool for you to sleep. Even if there's no light, you can manage to sleep small. But nowadays, it's not like that. Here, dear. Especially when the light is off. Ajay.
Stella enters briefly, then comes out again. She cannot stay inside for long. So she sits at the foot of the stairs, hoping the night breeze will help. For Stella, the heat is no longer just uncomfortable. It is beginning to affect her relationship.
Oh, me in particular, when there's heat, I will not allow my man to come close to me, to do something like sex or something, no. Because me like this, my body, I don't like heat. So if the weather is heat, then you are coming to me. I'll not give you a chance. Yeah, that's the truth. Oh, you not feel okay, but I can't because of the weather. But when the weather is cool, oh, yeah.
Just a few meters away, 32-year-old Josephine Abagri is also struggling through another sleepless night. Inside her room, she finds herself repeatedly with a piece of cloth. Moments later, she gives up trying to sleep. Sweat covers her face as she steps outside to join her mother, Janet.
Heat nana metu. Heat ne doso. It's me kakra light off. It's me doso. So do abantene so kata sese so yebre na over the asia hit na won't mean that one na over share abantene so won't mean that one ntia.
Hundreds of kilometers away in Brumo, in the northern region, another climate struggle is unfolding. The dam in the community is almost dry under prolonged extreme heat and declining rainfall. Chief Alhassan Musa sits among elders in his palace, worried not just about thirst, but about how rising heat is drying their dam. He says the water crisis is affecting daily life in painful ways many people are unwilling to speak about openly. Researchers at the University of Ghana say these experiences are becoming more common as temperature rises. Professor Ebenezer Amankwa is a senior lecturer at the Geography Department of the University of Ghana.
In two of the communities that we worked in, men complained that in the night they were not able to have affair with or have intimacy with their spouses. Several reasons, but maybe two main ones. One was the fact that, extreme heat also comes with water scarcity. So if they're not getting enough water because of the drought conditions, then it becomes difficult for them to get water. Most of these communities they are Muslim dominated, and they will need water to do a lot of things after intimacy and even before. And so that was one main thing that came up. So that is how climate, in a long way, in terms of the different directional implications, can come and affect intimacy.
The research conducted in Accra and Tamale examined how housing conditions and rising temperatures affect daily life.
People referring to instances where in the night their kids are not able to sleep, and if the kids are not able to sleep, it means the mothers are not able to sleep as well, because they have to stay awake and keep them cool using warm towels and all of that. And so that also affects the time that could have been used for intimacy.
Sensors installed in homes show that cement buildings with metal roofing trap more heat than traditional mud houses with thatch roofs.
To be able to improve our thermal comfort, right? So if you have mud and thatch available, and you can add some touch of technology to sort of get the cooling effect and also maintain the aesthetic appeal, why not? Let's go for it. If you are in a community where you tend to have the trees, don't cut them, but then use them to provide tree shade during the day. People can sit under and then escape from the boiling effect in the rooms. And then, let's adapt well to this changing climate, because it's going to be with us for a long time. And a lot of the things that we can do is to adapt. And as we adapt, let's use the local resources we have. And let's not throw away our local technology as well.
Across many communities, the night no longer brings relief. Even after midnight, people remain awake, sitting outside their rooms, struggling through the heat. Fans continue to run, but the discomfort lingers. For many families, climate change is no longer only about rising temperatures or dry downs. It is disrupting sleep, affecting health, straining relationships, and changing daily life in ways that often go unseen. And long after the sun goes down, the heat still refuses to leave. Emmanuel Jivanu, Joy News, Accra.
CDKN Ghana, University of Ghana Center for Climate Change and Sustainability Studies, with funding from CLARE R4I Opportunities Fund.
Over 80,000 metric tons of seed are sitting unused in government warehouses in northern region, with more held in private facilities across the area. The figure was confirmed to Joy News by the president of the Seed Producers Association during a visit to one of the main Agric Ministry warehouses. Well, the facility is among several across the region storing large quantities of seed. The Agric warehouse holds about 33,000 tons of rice seed, 20,000 tons of maize seed, and 25,000 tons of soya bean seed.
Northern region is home to a network of private companies and research institutions producing improved high-yielding and climate-resilient seed varieties for maize, rice, soya beans, among others. But in the last 2 years, they have suffered a huge challenge: no market. Speaking to Joy News, Northern Regional President of the association, Amadou Alhassan, said production had increased in response to government's flagship agricultural program, but authorities had not yet bought the current stock.
It's made up of individual seed producers and companies, seed companies. We produced a lot of seed last year. In fact, there was no market. But because of the government flagship program, Feed Ghana, we intensified the seed production last year. And we have a lot of seed here. We have rice, we have soybean, we have maize, we have granite and cowpea.
Another producer, Abukari Abdullahi, said previous government has subsidized seed purchase for farmers. He added that the new government is yet to purchase since it took over.
As we speak, we are in May. In fact, we have started receiving rain. Farmers are ready to go to the field. Our seeds are still stocked here. Nobody is coming for them. Farmers sometimes complain of the prices of our seeds, but previously we used to have government subsidy. Government come and subsidize our seed, make it affordable to farmers. That is what we're expecting government to do this year, but we are yet to get the information as to whether the seed will be subsidized for the farmers.
The delay is not only affecting farmers. Women who clean and process the grain say they risk losing their livelihood if farmers are unable to plant this year.
So,
if farming activity ceases, you will have no grain to process and consequently no income to support our families. We therefore appeal to buyers to purchase the seed so that farmers can resume cultivation and we can retain our livelihood into next season. Many of us have families to care for, and this work is our primary source of income. At present, we have not been paid for work already completed due to the lack of markets. We respectfully urge buyers to intervene.
She quit school after junior high and pursued a dream to sew. Her love for developing that talent and her admiration. Through that, she acquired another talent to MC at functions. In between, she married and had children whom she dearly loves. She shares her motherhood story in our series, My Mom, My World, Patience. Quay, popularly known as MC2 Cute, talks about effective home planning, pursuing dreams, and most importantly, speaking positive words to our children. She sat with my colleague Hannah Odame, who has the rest of the story.
This is what she does now, bringing smiles to clients who engage her services. Before she got here, MC2 Cute made a bold, but what she says was a meaningful decision to quit school after junior high school.
I believe in myself, and I know that it's not everybody who goes to school or who is well educated will make money in life. But I realize I know how to sew.
Okay.
Yes.
Even at that time?
Yes, please.
You could sew?
Yes, please.
With her mother's blessing, the journey began.
It was 3 years.
3 years.
And I served for 6 months.
It was during this period that she discovered yet another talent. One that will soon make her very popular and add greatly to her life and finances.
So I got one of the stores at Kanesi
to start operating it.
Thank you very much. So there are a lot of madams there. So one of them gave birth.
Okay.
So we went to the Adore. So we were there eating, drinking, and I realized that there was no MC. So I went to her and I asked her, why are you not inviting anybody to come and talk to? I said, no, it was something simple, but you can do it. I said, no, I'm not an MC. So I just went there, take the microphone, do my own thing. And do you know that whilst I was doing it, somebody was also standing somewhere looking at me. So after the program, I went to my shop, sewing, doing my job, and then the man came there and said, do you remember you went to do a program like this? I said, yeah. I said, yes, you did it very well, so I want you to do my MC.
Wow.
Engagement MC.
Wow.
Say what?
Yes, a master of ceremonies, one with a unique touch, and clients can't stop engaging her.
Since then, that is all.
That was it?
Yeah.
One. Somebody just witnessing. Then after that, I'm sure there were referrals.
Yes, please.
From that place.
From that place. And do you know something? If you are doing something for somebody, come out, do it with all that is within you.
At weddings, she's there. At engagements, she strengthens bonds. At birthdays, she's available. At funerals, she sympathizes. For every program she's called on, she delivers. With her charming demeanor, Patience Kwao shares the inspiration behind the name MC2 Cute.
MC2 Cute is a woman who eats a lot, but the body no the same.
Oh, okay.
I named myself MC2 Cute. And just look at this body, it's very cute, of course.
Emphasizing how the words of her mother impacted positively on her confidence and development in life, MC2 Cute cautions mothers against saying bad things about their children, since words can have lasting effects.
Bible baby says, oh baby, every woman have a wing. What do they use it for? They use it to cover their children. A mother should not insult their children with some filthy words. You are insulting your child. That look at her face like a goat. Have you seen a goat working in bank before?
No.
So we use our mouth to spoil our children's destiny. And on Mother's Day, we catch all the parents. Please, if your child offends you, let us not give you the room to use some words. You tell your child that you will suffer. So she is suffering. Now you are old. Who is going to buy you something to eat? Lawyer. She didn't live to say Dr. Use good words for your children.
Her daughter, Karina Kwao, who often attends events with her, confirms the positive impact her mother has had on her and her siblings.
I and my siblings are wishing my mommy a happy Mother's Day, and then we are praying for long life, prosperity, and good health for her.
MC2 Cute is not only nurturing her children, she also teaches other younger ladies to sew.
My madam is a very pleasant person and a kind-hearted person, and I wish her a happy Mother's Day.
My madam is very kind, patient, and she teaches us well. We wish her happy Mother's Day.
My madam is a very good, and she's like a mother to us, and I love her very much.
This dress she's just working on is for a special function that she will be attending an MC this weekend. After work all day, MC2 Cute doesn't go home. She heads to the park near her tailoring shop to share God's word. Patience Kwao, popularly known as MC2 Cute, wears many hats. She's a wife, a mother, tailor, chorister, MC, and evangelist. From her home to her workplace and beyond, she spreads God's love. For Joy News, I am Hannah Wadami.
And if you're still thinking of what to do for your mother, your superstation Joy 99.7 FM is making that possible with a trip to Crown Forest on the 9th of May for our Mother's Day Out. All you need to do is to call Lois on 059-1709-309 to secure your spot. Just so you know, a bus will transport guests to and from the venue. So please do not miss that. Well, let's take you to Western Europe now, because Europe is taking another look at its relationship with Washington after President Donald Trump confirmed the United States will pull thousands of troops out of Germany. That decision has sparked fresh discussion across European capitals about what the U.S. role will look like going forward and how responsibilities are shared within NATO. In Berlin, officials are striking a steady note even as the broader transatlantic partnership continues to adjust to changing priorities in Washington. For more on this, let's cross over to Thomas Powell, who is our correspondent with our partners DW in Berlin. For more, Thomas, how is Germany reacting to the prospect of deeper U.S. troop cuts?
There is an understanding here in Germany, both politically and also among Germans, that the U.S. troops that have been stationed here for a long time are very significant indeed. We're talking about 36,000 U.S. troops stationed in Germany. That's by far the largest U.S. military presence in Europe. And from that perspective, it is also clear that the announcement by the U.S. government to cut around 5,000 of those troops is politically very significant. And it's significant on two levels. The first level is the message that Washington sends to Germany and to Europe. And that is a message that basically Europe needs to further develop its own military capabilities. But the second element is whether this actually has any influence on U.S. power abroad. Now, 5,000 compared to 36,000 is not a lot, so military experts have stressed that this probably won't end or won't affect U.S. Military power to a large extent. But one important element there is that one of the units that will probably likely be scrapped is a unit that was planned by former President Biden in the United States to actually send long-range missiles to Europe as a very important sign of deterrence towards Russia. Now, that is being scrapped, and military experts are stressing that that essentially leaves a very important, a very significant military gap that the Europeans then need to close.
And Thomas, why does this matter beyond Germany for Europe as a whole?
So it definitely matters beyond Germany, because the question here is also what impact that will have on NATO. These troops that have been stationed here in Germany for such a long time, they've actually been stationed since the end of the Second World War, especially during the Cold War. So there's a very important historical component to this. They're at the core of what NATO actually does. And by the way, they're also very significant for US operations beyond Europe. So, for example, US operations in the Middle East. Here in Germany, you have a very important air base, you have a very important military hospital, you have very important command structures. So all this essentially goes to show that a US presence in Europe is very significant for Europe, for NATO, and also for the United States. NATO has now requested more information from the United States as to what these cuts actually mean, whether further cuts will actually come. And after that, it will basically move towards a debate among European NATO partners as to how European NATO partners can further develop their own military capability. So without doubt, this is something that has influence beyond what is happening specifically here in Germany.
And what does this mean for Europe's relationship with Washington going forward?
A very significant and very controversial moment for Germany and the US, and more broadly also for Europe and the US. It is not a secret that Europe and the United States have not seen eye to eye on many important issues, that also Germany and the United States have not seen eye to eye on many important issues, including, for example, their position on the war in Iran. If we speak specifically about Germany, there have been very open differences between US President Donald Trump and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz about about the war in Iran, specifically the German Chancellor criticizing Donald Trump and the US strategy in that part of the world, and Donald Trump also on his social media platform then criticizing Friedrich Merz. So as such, the withdrawal of these troops from Germany has also been interpreted to a large extent as a political message that the United States sends to Germany, as a way of, let's put it, as a punishment towards Germany for that not cooperation when it comes to the war in Iran, at least from the perspective of the United States. What this means going forward, specifically when it comes to Germany and the United States, is that both countries will have to work in trying to repair those differences. It is in the interest of both Germany and the United States to have a strong relationship. They're both in NATO. They're both tackling similar issues around the world. They're both very important political players in the world. So that's why experts have stressed that it is in both countries' interest to make sure that those differences are, in a way, discussed and repaired. But it will mean also that that repair process will be difficult, because there are these very open discussions, there are very open disagreements on the table. If we look at it a bit broader when it comes to Europe and the United States, that goes beyond the issue of Iran. That also includes other issues that are very problematic, such as tariffs. Also, the war in Ukraine has revealed certain differences between Europe and the United States. So all in all, what we can say is the relationship between Washington and Europe, while it is very significant, it is not going through its best moment.
Our partners DW in Berlin, thank you very much. And that's how we wrap up the pulse this evening. Thank you very much for being a part of the show. For more news, you can log on to myjoyonline.com. My name is Kenneth. Jesse, have a good evening.